If you've ever played a Pikmin game before, you'll know that the day system plays a huge role in basically every game in the series. In fact, for a lot of people, the fun in these games comes from playing them as efficiently and as quickly as possible. Or, in other words, beating them in the fewest amount of days possible. And I would know because when I was a kid, I would try and beat Pikmin 1 as quickly as I could. And I was bad at the game, so I think the best I ever got was like 12 or 13 days. And obviously that isn't the fewest, but it begs the question, what is the fewest amount of days? And not just Pikmin 1, what about for every game in the series? What is the absolute lowest amount of days you can beat Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and 4 in? And I needed to know. So in this video, I'm gonna attempt to beat every game in the series in the fewest amount of days possible. And at the end of the video, I'll let you know what the actual fewest amount of days is for each game. That way, we can compare and see how close I got, and hopefully, that way we can answer the question, which Pikmin game can you beat in the fewest amount of days? Hey guys, this is just a reminder to subscribe to the channel if you like what we do here. It helps us out a ton. And we're also on Patreon, so if you want to support us, that would be amazing. Thank you. So before we begin, we have to establish what exactly beating a Pikmin game means. For the first and third games, it's pretty easy. Pikmin 1, it's collecting every mandatory ship part. For Pikmin 3, it's killing the Plasm Wraith and rescuing Olimar. But for 2 and 4, it's a bit more complicated. In 2, credits roll when you pay off the debt, but once you do that, a new area will be unlocked and the goal of rescuing Louis will become available. And a similar thing happens in 4. When you rescue Olimar, credits will roll. But again, you can come back to the planet, explore 2 new areas, and cure Ochi of his new disease. And these 2 situations kind of made it difficult to determine exactly when the games are considered finished. But what I ended up going with was, when I hit credits, I would consider the game beat. Rescuing Louis and curing Ochi doesn't actually trigger any credits, which made me think this stuff was more like extra content than a part of the main story. So, to reiterate, the games are considered finished when you collect every mandatory part, pay off the debt, kill the Plasm Wraith, and rescue Olimar. And now that that's dealt with, let's get into the video. So the first game I tackled was Pikmin 4. And I was a little worried for Pikmin 4 because I remember it being a really long game. I think my original playthrough took like 20 or 30 days to beat. And what's also annoying about Pikmin 4 is the way to beat it is a little convoluted. To beat the game, we need to rescue Olimar. But to rescue Olimar, we need to first unlock Hero's Hideaway. And to unlock Hero's Hideaway, you need to rescue all the Rescue Corps members and collect 7,000 Sparklium. The way we rescue the Rescue Corps members is by finding them in caves or by attaining leaflings from Dandori challenges and curing them by doing night missions. Yeah, it's a little more complex than just collect 30 ship parts, but either way, we have to do it, so let's get into it. So, the game starts out with you playing as Olimar in this little tutorial section, but there's no time limit. The game doesn't consider it a day, and you're not even playing as the main character yet, so we won't be counting it towards the total. The second tutorial area, though, does count as a day. And as I was recording it, I didn't realize, but there was an issue with my OBS, so the footage turned out like this. Just know we collected all the treasures and rescued Colin and Shepard, 2 members of the Rescue Corps. Day 2, though, is where this run really begins, because on day 2, we arrive in the Sun-Speckled Terrace, and the first thing we do is head for the last Frost Cavern. We break down this wall with Ochi and head inside the cave. And unlike the caves in Pikmin 2, time doesn't stop when you're down here. It keeps going. Mind you, at a sixth of the normal pace, but still, it doesn't stop, so even when we're in the caves, we're gonna have to be going as fast as we can. Luckily though, this cave is pretty easy. We find Ice Pikmin, collect the Farlick, and rescue Russ, who is another member of the Rescue Corps. Once we leave the cave, our goal is to hop right back into another one. But unfortunately, this one is up on a ledge that we can't access unless we bring down this platform and knock down this wall. And doing all that is way too slow, so instead, we're just gonna throw our Pikmin up here, run over to this corner, whistle them, and then disband them near the bag, allowing them to push it down and giving us access to the Crackling Cauldron earlier than we should. In the Crackling Cauldron, we Dandori our asses off by collecting every treasure and rescuing Schnauz, who is basically useless to us. Once we make it back above ground, we collect a couple more treasures and end the day. Unfortunately, we need to do this, because our pup Ochi isn't fully grown yet, and won't be until day 3. And we need Ochi to be fully grown, because when he's fully grown, he gains access to his jump ability, which we're gonna need to obtain a bunch of things around the Sunspeckle Terrace. And as we begin day 3, you can see we make use of that jump ability right away. We jump up on this ledge right behind the base and head down into the Hectic Hollows. In the Hectic Hollows, we rescue Kinsley, who again is completely useless to us. Oh, and we also collect every treasure, giving us 1,444 Sparklium so far. As soon as we leave, we head right over to another cave, which once again requires Ochi's jump ability to access. Before we head down, we move our base to this position over here and then enter the Industrial Maze. In the Industrial Maze, we rescue Dingo, who is actually useless to us because he's part of the Rescue Corps we need to save. And he's really all we need from the Industrial Maze, so once we get him, we just kind of leave. And as I make it back to solid land, I make 2 major fuck-ups. I thought we had collected everything we needed in the Sunspeckle Terrace, so I ended the day. And not only did I end the day, but I started a new day in the Blossoming Arcadia, which was the point I realized, oh shit, I messed up. You see, we still needed to get the Blue Onion and rescue the Leafling in the Sunspeckle Terrace. And I knew this, I just somehow forgot. And unfortunately in Pikmin 4, you cannot go back to previous days. Once you land in a new area, the game will save, and you're just kinda stuck there. So instead of making me do Pikmin 4's horrible tutorial again, we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. And even though it says day 5, we're gonna pretend it's day 3. I didn't do anything on day 4. I literally just landed and ended the day, so I gained no advantage by doing this. You can even see, when I ended the day on day 3, we still had like 90% of the day left. So I had more than enough time to do what I needed to do in that level. So on day 5, which is really day 3, we head right past the Crackling Cauldron, break down this wall, grab this watch, and nab another Farlick. We then perform an out-of-bounds trick by coming over towards this bridge, jumping on the railing, and then jumping off the railing into the garden below. This allows us to walk right past this electric fence without breaking it down, which obviously saves us some time. Next, we jump over this log, throw some Pikmin on this treasure up here, and find ourselves at the bridge you need to build to access the first Dandori challenge. Since we're trying to go as fast as possible, we avoid building the bridge and perform a little trick instead. If we jump on the railing of the bridge once again, we can perform a precise jump to this little middle section here. And I mean precise. Nailing this jump took me a while. There's an invisible wall here that you need to jump around to access the middle section. And if you think you can just walk onto the middle section, you'll be incorrect, because there's an invisible wall here as well. You basically have to stand on this darker section on the bridge here, run off the ledge so you're past the invisible wall, then jump while you're in midair and land on the tiny middle section after all is said and done. Once you're here, all you have to do is jump onto the brick and you're good. We can now face Leaf Almar in our first Dandori battle, and let me tell you, I Dandori the absolute shit out of him. beating him 148 to 38. After that embarrassing display, we leave the battle and throw some Pikmin over this wall to collect the blue onion, which just happens to be the last thing we need in the Sun-Speckled Terrace. And as you can see, even after sprouting a bunch of blue Pikmin, there's still more than half the day left. So we definitely had more than enough time to do all of this in a single day. Which is why I'm counting this as day 3 and not day 5. Even though it's technically day 5 because I'm a dumbass. So on day 6, which is actually day 4, we land in the blossoming Arcadia, and head right up this hill to complete another challenge against Olimar. After making an absolute fool out of him once again, we collect a couple more treasures, find another Farlick, then move our base right beside the Sightless Passage and head down into the cave. The Sightless Passage is a little annoying without the headlamp, but even without being able to see much, we're able to collect 3 treasures and rescue another castaway. After that, we grab 2 more treasures, the music bots, and whatever the hell this thing is. Then we make our way to the Drafty Gallery and head on down. While we're down there, we find another castaway and collect almost 1,000 Sparklium worth of treasure, which gives us over the 4,000 Sparklium we need to unlock the Serene Shores, which just happens to be where we're headed to next. When we get to the Serene Shores on day 5, we once again head straight into another Dandori battle, and once again make Olimar wish he died on PNF 404 in the first game. We throw a couple Pikmin on the body to carry the Leafling back to base, then knock down the statue with Ochi and grab it with our blue Pikmin. We throw 3 yellows on this dirt mound so they can clear a spot for our new base and grab the sword treasure. While my Pikmin were doing that, we swam around this huge rock with Ochi, got some blues to dig up this treasure buried in the mud, got 2 more to pull up on this rope, then got Ochi to dig in this dirt mound for some bomb rots, before switching back to the captain. We had to wait a bit until the statue treasure made it back to base, but once it did, we swapped our base over to the new location, and brought back the sword treasure and this lure. Next, we grabbed some blue Pikmin and used them to get this statue, which you actually don't need to build this bridge to get. You can just walk over to this corner and throw some blue Pikmin up. We then used the bomb rock that Ochi collected earlier to blow down this wall so my Pikmin can bring the statue back to base. While all this was happening, my blue Pikmin brought back the shell they were digging up earlier, and we headed down into the Seafloor Resort. In the Seafloor Resort, we make quick work of this giant Wollywog and rescue Yanni, who will allow us to do night missions now, which will become very useful soon. And by soon, I mean literally right now, because we have collected everything we need in the Serene Shores, and almost everything we need to unlock the Hero's Hideaway. We have the 7,000 Sparklium, we just have to save Bernard, the final Rescue Corps member. And the way we do that is by doing night expeditions, which will grant us Glow Sap, which in turn will allow us to return the Leaflings back to normal. But there are 2 unfortunate things about doing these night missions. First of all, they count as a regular day, and second, Bernard will always be the Leafling you get from the 3rd battle with Olimar, which is why we had to do 3 in the first place, but it also means that we have to do 3 night expeditions as well, as we need 2 glow saps to turn the first 2 Leaflings back to normal, and 1 more for Bernard. And this isn't even correct, because we actually need 4 glow saps. 3 for the Leaflings, and 1 for Olimar. But luckily, once we complete the first 2 night missions, we can unlock a 3rd expedition that allows us to get 2 glow saps in a single night. So, we complete all 3 night expeditions, granting us 4 glow saps. Which now brings us to day 11, which is actually day 9. And on day 9, we can finally head to the Hero's Hideaway and rescue Olimar. All we need to do to rescue Olimar is knock this car down and bring it back to base. Once we know what the number is, we can make our way over to the safe, input the number we do know, then cycle through the first 2 until we guess what the code is. Now that the safe is open, we can head down the hole and destroy Olimar one last time. Once he's defeated, we can bring Olimar back to the camp and cure him with our last glow sap. And that's it. that's Pikmin 4, a game that surprisingly only takes 9 days to beat. And here's the thing, I know it actually took me 11 days to beat the game, but that was because of a really stupid mistake. Not because that's how long it actually takes to beat the game. But unfortunately, I did make it, so I don't feel right using 9 days, so 11 it is. So, after Pikmin 4 was done, I tackled the third game in the series, Pikmin 3. And Pikmin 3, like the other games in the series, has an unskippable tutorial day at the start of the game. We play as Charlie, get captured by the Phosbat, and then find Red Pikmin with Elf and make our way back to the Drake. Unfortunately, there's not really much we can do about this day. We just have to complete it and move on with our lives. Day 2 is where we can start making some moves though. While my Pikmin are busy building this bridge, we throw some Pikmin across the gap and get them to break down this wall. Which speeds things up drastically because once the bridge is done, so is the wall, and we can just walk right on through. After that, we find Rock Pikmin, rescue Brittany, and avoid getting this lemon because all it serves to do is waste us time. You see, in Pikmin 3, you don't actually need fruit to progress. The only purpose of fruit is to give you more time on the planet. To actually progress through the game, we need to defeat bosses and collect special items like these. That's all you need. So to go as fast as possible, we're going to be avoiding as many fruits as possible, and just going for the special items. Which is what we do next. We build this bridge and go and fight the armored Maudad, who we kill super quickly by breaking the armor on his tail and charging all of our Pikmin at it. Once he's defeated, we grab the Data Glutton, bring it back to the ship, and end the day. Now with the Data Glutton obtained, we can make our way to the Distant Tundra. And the first thing we have to do in the Distant Tundra is perform a trick called Shaggy Longlegs Early. To do this, we need to first throw our yellow Pikmin up on this ledge, then press Brittany into this wall beside this ball, which will allow us to walk up it. Now that we're up here, we can walk along this ledge, go around this route, avoid the loading zone right above the cave exit, clip through this route, then drop down and take this exit with our Pikmin. And since we didn't exit the cave in the way the game intended us to, the game doesn't actually start the timer for the day yet. When you're actually in the cave with Brittany, you have an unlimited amount of time to do whatever you want. The timer only starts when you break down this wall and leave through the front of the cave. But since we left through the back, the trigger for the timer never gets set off. So we can kill Shaggy Longlegs and collect the fruit without wasting any time in the actual day. Unfortunately for us, if we want to beat the rest of the level, we're going to have to leave through the front. And if we want to bring this fruit back to the ship, we're going to have to build this huge bridge as well. The main gimmick of this level is that Elf and Brittany are completely separated by this broken bridge. And you have to use both of them to find bridge pieces on the respective sides to repair it. Which is what we do. As quickly as we can, we find all of the bridge pieces, repair the bridge, reunite Brittany and Elf, and bring the fruit back to base. And with the bridge repaired now, we can break down this wall leading to the Phosbat's domain and try and kill him before the end of the day. Normally, to fight the Phosbat, you're supposed to light up these bulbs around the arena, build this bridge, and then light up this huge light bulb, which will leave him vulnerable to attacks. But thankfully, with this little skip, we don't have to do any of that. By throwing Elf on this ledge and throwing some yellow Pikmin up here, we can light the main light bulb without having to build the bridge. And this saves us a bunch of time, which we desperately needed because we end up killing the Phosbat with only 2 seconds left in the day. And luckily for us, the Phosbat doesn't drop any special items that we need to bring back to the ship, because we literally wouldn't have time to do it. Thankfully, all we needed to do was kill him and save Charlie. And as you can see, as we end the day, we use up our last canister of juice. When you start a new file of Pikmin 3, the game starts you out with 3 canisters. You have to use 1 canister of juice to stay alive each day. And since we just finished day 3, it means our last canister of juice is gone. which is why we collected that single half a starfruit earlier in the day. It gives us exactly 1 canister of juice, which just happens to keep us alive for 1 more day. With Charlie now rescued, we have unlocked the Tropical Wilds, and we can actually beat the Tropical Wilds really quickly. In fact, we can ignore like 90% of it. All we have to do is start breaking down this wall with our Pikmin, throw Charlie and Brittany into the water, and bring them over to this pipe. Now that we're over here, we can clip Brittany out of bounds by holding on to her with Charlie, turning him so Brittany clips into the wall, drop her out of bounds, then dismiss with Charlie, which will knock her into the void. She will then respawn on this higher area here. We then need to walk back towards this log to hit a trigger that will remove an invisible wall guarding this bag. We can now push the bag down, bring all of our Pikmin up, and then head over here to fight the boss. Doing this skips having to build the bridge, break down this wall, and throwing the captains across this log, which obviously saves us a bunch of time. Now we can take out the Mirror Slug super quickly and bring this large piece of watermelon, this medium piece, and the folded data glutton back to the ship, which just happens to give us 2 more canisters of juice, which is actually all we're gonna need for the rest of this run. On day 5, we headed to the Twilight River, and to beat the Twilight River in a single day is gonna require a lot of skips. The first one we have to do is called Winged Onion Early, which requires us to walk into the river with Alf and Brittany, then walk into the lily pad at a very specific angle, which will clip them out of bounds and cause them to spawn up on solid ground. We can then throw some rock Pikmin into the river, whistle them to the other side, kill the spider, and save the winged Pikmin. This allows us to get winged Pikmin without having to find all the bridge pieces scattered throughout the level and build this bridge. We can then take the lily pad down the river with Charlie and bring him to this bag here. Now, we can swap back to Alf and Brittany, use the wind Pikmin to move this stick, which will then remove an invisible wall here, and allow us to throw some Pikmin up on this ledge with Charlie, charge them at the bag, and push it down. This now gives us access to the second part of the level, so we can go there with Charlie, start breaking down this wall, and then make our way over there with Alf and Brittany as well. Once the wall is broken down, we can do a trick that skips us having to build this massive bridge leading to the boss. We first need to throw Brittany and Charlie up on this route, then throw Charlie up on this ledge. Once he's up there, we can walk him into this corner at a very specific angle, which will cause him to clip through the wall and fall out of bounds. And falling out of bounds will spawn him up on this walkway, which will then allow us to quickly whistle our Pikmin and walk into the loading zone, bringing them all with us into the boss fight. We kill the Scornet Maestro relatively quickly, and then are given the task of bringing Louie back to the ship, which is kind of an issue because we didn't build the bridge to get up here. So when the Pikmin bring Louie's body down the walkway, they'll just kind of be stopped by this invisible wall here. But if we throw some Pikmin on them, whistle them off, and then keep repeating this, we will eventually clip Louie through the invisible wall. With Louie now through the wall, we can bring him back to base with no obstacles in our way. And now that we have Louie, he'll try to escape and blow down this wall, leading to the second half of the Garden of Hope, which just happens to be the easiest part of this run. All we have to do is flying blue Pikmin, do another out of bounds clip with Brittany and Charlie, which will spawn her right up here before the boss. We then want to position our Pikmin and Elf in this spot where the bridge is normally built. Then swap back to Brittany and perform a very precise whistle to get all of our Pikmin right before we walk into the loading zone. And if we do it right, our Pikmin will come with us into the boss arena. Doing this skips almost the entire second half of the Garden of Hope. It skips having to find all the pieces needed to build this bowl, and this bridge, which is literally the entire level, so yeah, it saves a lot of time. We haven't even reached the quarter point of the day yet, and we're already at the boss. And trust me, we're not going to be slowing down from here, because we're about to perform the Meyerklops Quick Kill. To perform this, we need to first break the crystal on his back, exposing his weak point. Then he'll stand up and knock us off his back, which at that point, we need to charge all of our Pikmin on his feet, which will knock him down again. Then we need to spicy spray our Pikmin, hop on his back again, wait until he does his tongue attack, run around to the other side, then charge all of our Pikmin on him. This will do a shit ton of damage, but not enough to kill him, and right before he dies, he'll try and buck all the Pikmin off his back. But if we call our winged Pikmin off right before he tries to knock them off, we can charge them back on him once he's done it. Which at that point, the winged Pikmin will keep attacking him as he tries to stand up. And if done correctly, it'll be just enough damage to kill him in a single cycle. And again, this saves a ton of time. We've already beaten the level, and it's only a quarter of the way through the day. It's kinda crazy. All we really need to do is build this bridge and bring Louie back to base, and we're done. Which now brings us to day 7 and the Formidable Oak. And if we want to beat this run in 7 days, we have to beat the Formidable Oak and defeat the boss all in a single day. Which is not an easy task, but thankfully, we have some tricks to help us out. The first skip we can do is done by throwing our yellow Pikmin up on this ledge, and then charging them at this bag, allowing them to knock it down, which allows us to skip this whole portion here, where we have to fight the Bulborb and break down this wall. Next, we can break down this crystal and bring these 30 bridge pieces to the bridge over here. We actually don't need to finish the bridge, we just need to build it enough so we can use our rock Pikmin to kill this spider. Once the spider's dead, we can now throw Brittany and Charlie across the gap and position Elf here. Now we can swap back to Brittany and do another precise whistle to grab our Pikmin. If we do this and then quickly hit the loading zone, they will come with us to the next area. Next, we need to throw 10 winged Pikmin up here to bring down this clipboard, then come to this corner and perform another out of bounds clip with Brittany and Charlie. This will spawn her up on the higher area, which will cause our winged Pikmin carrying Olimar to go up there as well. All we need to do is now throw our Pikmin up with Brittany, kill the spider, and then walk across the clipboard we knocked down earlier. Which will bring us to the end of the cave and the fight with the boss, who we're able to kill with probably only a minute or 2 left in the day. Which actually ends our journey with Pikmin 3, a journey that only lasted 7 days. But now that that's done, let's move on to Pikmin 1. Okay, so if you're watching this video, you probably know that day 1 of Pikmin 1 is a complete wash. Just like in Pikmin 3, day 1 is just a tutorial. And unfortunately, just like in Pikmin 3, there's no way to skip it. So we sprout 25 red Pikmin, grab the engine, and move on to day 2. So, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure you can beat every level in Pikmin 1 in a single day, but it's really hard. Like, it's basically speedrunning. And I'm not a speedrunner, so this is going to be interesting. So on day 2, we made it to the Forest of Hope. And since the Forest of Hope has the least amount of parts out of the 3 levels, I thought it was my best bet to finish in a single day. But boy was I wrong. I tried this day so many times, but no matter what I did, I couldn't finish it in a single day. But let me quickly go over my fastest attempt so you have an idea of what I did. The first thing I did was grab 25 Pikmin, turn them all into flowers, got 24 of them breaking down this wall, and then used a single Pikmin to collect these 2 pellets. Once the gate was broken down, I gathered up this 10 pellet, killed and collected these 2 dwarf Bulborbs, and grabbed the remaining pellets over here. I then took 8 red Pikmin for a swim and got them building this bridge. Next, I went back to my base, grabbed some Pikmin, and looted everything over here. I then plucked 39 Pikmin, got them started on this wall, got 4 Pikmin working on this bridge, and then went back to the base to pluck the remaining Pikmin. Once they were done breaking down the wall, we found yellows. I spotted a bunch of them and we broke down the stone wall leading to the Snagrets. I threw 10 red Pikmin on the bots, whistled them to the other side, and they pushed it out of the way. We ran over to where the Snagret holding the Geiger counter was, waiting for it to get stuck, and then swarmed its head, killing it instantly. I then flowered my Pikmin, got them on the Geiger counter, dropped down off the ledge, and grabbed some bombs. Next, we blew up the wall near the ship, and then used 4 bombs to blow up this dark bramble wall. I then threw a Pikmin up on this wall with the sole purpose of distracting this Bulborb. We made it to the Nova Blaster, I got my red Pikmin on it, and we collected more bombs with our yellows. We then used 2 bombs to break down this bramble wall leading to the Cannon Beetle. After that, we used 9 bombs to blow down this Splatstone wall so we could grab the Extraordinary Bolt and the Whimsical Radar right after. I distracted this Bulborb while my Pikmin brought the parts back to base. Then we quickly ran over to the Sagittarius and tried to bring it back as well. By this time, my Pikmin had built the bridges, but it was too late. We still had 2 more parts after this to collect, and we had no time left in the day. So there was no way this was happening. So I came back on day 3 and finished bringing the Sagittarius back to base. I then grabbed the Shock Absorber and Radiation Canopy to finish off the Forest of Hope. We were so close to doing this, and probably only needed a couple more minutes, but I just wasn't skilled enough to finish this in a single day. So, unfortunately, we're gonna have to move on to the Forest Naval already at day 4. And let me tell you, the Forest Naval was a complete shit show. I tried this level so many times, and the best I could ever do was getting 4 out of the 9 ship parts. I got the Guard Satellite, Omega Stabilizer, Gravity Jumper, and Automatic Gear, but that's it. I did open up most of the level and was able to grow a bunch of blue Pikmin as well, but I wasn't even close to getting all the ship parts in a single day. So I had to come back on day 5 and collect the remaining 5 ship parts. I got the number 1 Ionium Jet, Analog Computer, Libra, Space Float, and Anti-Dioxin Filter. And by the time I got everything back to base, it was almost 3/4 of the way through the day. So, like I said before, I wasn't even close to beating it in one day. But after we finished the Forest Naval, we made a quick stop at the impact site and grabbed the Positron Generator, which unfortunately counts as a full day even though it's a single part. On day 7, we landed in the Distant Spring. And the first thing I did when I got to the Distant Spring was grab 90 blues and 10 yellows. I then threw 22 blues up on this ledge and directed them towards the repair type bolt. Once they were on the part, I brought my remaining blues over to this bridge here and got them to start building it. Next, I ran back to base and grabbed the blues that were on the repair type bolt and brought them over to the Pluffy Blowhog that holds the interstellar radio. We quickly killed it, and I put my Pikmin on it to start bringing it back to base. While my blues were doing that, I ran back and grabbed the yellow Pikmin. I then ran across the bridge my Pikmin had just finished building, grabbed 9 bombs, and got my blues on the massage machine. I then used those 9 bombs to blow up this Blatstone wall, which allowed me to go and fight the Armored Cannon Beetle, who I was able to beat in 1 cycle. Next, I brought the Bowsprit over to this bridge and got 30 Pikmin working on it. I then threw 20 blue Pikmin up on this ledge, left my yellows by this bomb deposit, and then grabbed the number 2 Ionium Jet with the remaining blues. After that, I ran back to my yellows and used 2 bombs to blow up this wall, used 4 to blow up this one, and then used 2 more to blow up this one, guarding the Synchronium rotor. Then I got the 30 blues who were building this bridge to carry the Bowsprit back to base, and then performed this out of bounds glitch using this ball bearer to bring my 20 blues I threw up on the ledge earlier over towards the Kronos reactor. Once I was done, I ran all the way back to base, grabbed 15 yellows, and got the UV lamp. Then I ran back to base again to grab the blue Pikmin who just brought back the Kronos reactor and Bowsprit, and used them to collect the pilot seat and Zirconium rotor. And with the last little part of the day left, I ran over towards the Gluon drive, killed the Shearwids, and used their bodies to push the gluon drive into the water, which at that point let me bring it back to base with my blue Pikmin without having to build these 2 bridges. And that was it. That was all 10 parts. For some reason, even though there was more parts in the Distant Spring, I found it way easier completing it in one day than the other 2 levels. I have no idea why this is, but I didn't care. Because the hard part was over. All we had to do now was go to the final trial, kill the Emperor Bulblats, and get the secret safe in one day. Which, if you know what you're doing, is fairly trivial. And it was. We were able to bring the secret safe back to base with half the day remaining. Which means we just beat Pikmin 1 in 8 days. Which probably isn't the fastest, but it's the fastest I could do. So let's move on to Pikmin 2, our final game. And my first thought was, hey, Pikmin 2 is going to be easy. I can just get to the Emergence Cave on day 2 and farm the cave until I pay off the debt, beating the game in 2 days. That was until I found this low percentage speedrun of Pikmin 2, where Zach the Pillow farms the Emergence Cave for 25 hours to pay off the debt. And not only did it take him 25 hours to do this, it also took him 16 in-game days. All the time it took running from the ship to the Emergence Cave added up to 16 in-game days, so this wasn't gonna work. The main problem with Pikmin 2 is that you're forced to waste 2 days in the Valley of Repose. 1 day to collect the Courage Reactor, and a second to collect the Spherical Atlas, which unlocks the game's second world, the Awakening Wood. And I thought this was set in stone. I thought this was something you were forced to do, but it turns out I was wrong. If we get funky with some glitches, we can actually cut the 2 days spent in the Valley of Repose down to 1. And it's a little complicated, so I'll do my best to explain it. On day 1, we have to perform a Pikmin extinction glitch. So we whistle precisely 1 Pikmin off the Bulborb, bring him over to this corner, hold the A button to grab onto the Pikmin, press down on the joystick so Olimar turns around without moving, then throw our Pikmin, which will cause him to go out of bounds. Now we can whistle him and use the C-stick to make him fall off into the void, killing him instantly. And since the game thinks we only have 1 Pikmin, and it just died, it considers it a Pikmin extinction and ends the day. We then have to hit Don't Save, and then move on to day 2. And when we come back on day 2, the onion spits out 1 seed because of the extinction the day before. We now have to use that 1 Pikmin to kill this dwarf Bulborb. Once he's dead, we want to pause the game right as the ghost appears from his body. Once we end the day, we hit Don't Save once again, but this time, instead of hitting continue, we select Start Over from last save and start a new save file. All of this was to set up a glitch called Cutscene Timer Storage, which will basically allow this cutscene where the ship is talking about re-establishing a link with Louie to play out of order. Normally, you can't swap to Louie until this cutscene plays, and this cutscene will only play when you kill the dwarf Bulborb. And we can't do that because we need him alive for a trick in the future. So doing this cutscene storage glitch basically allows us to swap to Louie without having to kill the Bulborb, and you'll see why that's important in a second. But now we have to grow 11 Pikmin with Louie, walk over towards the bag, and knock it down. Once we do that, we need to throw our red Pikmin up on this ledge, and then lure this Bulborb over and use him to push Olimar up on it as well. And this trick is apparently incredibly precise. It even says on the Pikmin wiki, this will likely take you thousands of attempts. And I believe them, because I tried doing this for over an hour and got absolutely nowhere. It is possible though. I have footage here of YouTuber Yoshiro Kazuku performing the incredibly hard trick. However, I'm complete ass, so I had to use a Moonjump AR code to get up there myself. But just know, you can legitimately get up there. I'm just too dog shit to actually do it. So now that we're up here, we can make our way over to the Emergence Cave, go in, and convert our red Pikmin into purples. We have to be careful not to collect any treasure on our first pass through the cave, because any treasure collected on day 1 will automatically end the day, and we don't want to do that quite yet. So we go into the cave a second time, collecting every treasure, including the Spherical Atlas, and then killing off the remaining red Pikmin we have. This will cause another Pikmin extinction, and play this cutscene when we leave the cave. This cutscene will stop the game from automatically ending the day because we collected treasure, which will allow us to collect the Courage Reactor and put a little more Pokos in our pocket. On day 2, we head to the Awakening Wood, and the first thing we do is break down this bag and head to the White Flower Garden, which nabs us some white Pikmin and the 5-man knapsack, which we're going to need for a couple tricks later on in the day. We then head right over to the Hole of Beasts and completely kick its ass, collecting every treasure in the process. And with that, we had already completed 2 of the 4 caves in the Awakening Wood. But unfortunately for us, the remaining 2 caves were a little harder to access. To get to the Stankritz Hole, you need blue Pikmin to break down this bridge. And to reach the Bulblat's Kingdom, you need blues to break down this wall and yellows to break down this one. But since we don't have blues or yellows yet, we're going to have to find another way around. To get to the Stankritz Hole, we need to first throw a Pikmin up on this ledge, then use the C-Stick to bring it close to the Creeping Chrysanthemum, waking it up. We can then lure it close to the ledge and make it attack, which will cause it to fall off. Now, we can attack it with Olimar and bait out its belly bounce attack, which, if we position ourselves correctly, can knock us up on the ledge. We can then throw our Pikmin up here as well, and break down the wall, which gives us access to the cave. For the Bulblat's Kingdom, we can use the 5-man knapsack, which allows our Pikmin to carry us. And if we do it in the right spot, right beside this log, our Pikmin will carry us right on top of it. If we then do it again on this higher section, we can get on top of the log, which will give us access to the cave. All we have to do now is whistle our Pikmin and head inside. Doing both of these tricks will allow us to complete every cave in the Awakening Wood and still have a quarter of the day left remaining, which we're going to need to get blue Pikmin, which is the last thing we need to do before we leave the level. Normally, we need yellows to get blue Pikmin, but as we've already gone over, we don't have yellow Pikmin, so we're going to have to find another way. And this other way is called Early Blues. If we use the 5-man knapsack again and get our Pikmin to carry us up this ledge, we can then walk over towards the scales, throw a Pikmin at the poison wall, and then throw a Pikmin on one of these scales to raise it up as we walk on it. If we do it right, the scale will raise during the poison cutscene, which will clip Olimar out of bounds. Now, all we have to do is walk in the out of bounds area until we reach this spot here. We then run towards where the blues are located, and as soon as we fall off into the void, we hold the button to activate the 5-man knapsack. If done correctly, we will be teleported past the electric fence and right beside the blue onion. We quickly sprout 20 blue Pikmin and end the day. And as soon as I did, I realized I was a complete idiot and forgot to grab the geographic projection, which is needed to unlock the perplexing pool. We were supposed to grab it before entering the Stankritz Hole, but I completely forgot. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to waste a day coming back to the Awakening Wood just to grab it. It does allow us to pick up some other treasures that we missed on our first day and grow our blue population a bit, but other than that, it's kinda just a waste of a day. On day 4, we head back to the Valley of Repose with our newly found blue Pikmin. We then break down this wall, giving us access to the final 2 caves of the area, which we beat handedly, collecting every treasure in both caves. We did use this knapsack trick to skip breaking down the wall guarding the subterranean complex, but other than that, we beat both caves like normal. And now we come to day 5, which actually happens to be the last day in this run. We already had 8,500 Pokos, so we only needed 1, maybe 2 caves to complete paying off the debt. So I quickly completed the Citadel of Spiders, giving us 9,500 Pokos after all was said and done, which meant we only had to do one more cave to pay off the debt. So after we left the cave, I built the bridge leading to the shower room and used this little trick where if you run at the bridge at a certain angle, you can walk straight out of bounds with it. So I got out of bounds, walked over, and dropped down into the area where the shower room is, completely bypassing the electric fence. And yeah, we probably could have gotten yellows and broken down the fence like normal, but this was faster, so I did this. I made quick work of the shower room, collecting every treasure and defeating the boss. And when we came back to the surface, the debt was completely paid off. Which means we just completed Pikmin 2 in 5 days. Now, it really should have been 4 if I wasn't a complete idiot, but either way, I was happy with 5 days. It took us 8 days to beat Pikmin 1, 5 days to beat Pikmin 2, 7 days to beat Pikmin 3, and 11 to beat Pikmin 4, even though we could have easily done it in 9. But who cares how many days I did it in? I want to know what the absolute lowest amount of days possible is. Well, let's start off with 3, because the 7 days we took to beat Pikmin 3 is actually the lowest you can possibly get. You need 1 day to complete the tutorial, a second to get the Data Glutton in the first half of the Forest of Hope, a third to rescue Charlie from the distant tundra, a fourth to get the folded Data Glutton from the tropical wilds, a fifth to rescue Louie in the Twilight River, a sixth to rescue Louie once again in the second half of the Forest of Hope, and a seventh to beat the final boss in the Formidable Oak. Pikmin 4 is the same thing. If we didn't make that mistake of ending the day early and going to the Blossoming Arcadia, we would have finished the game in the minimum amount of days, which is 9. The first day, you have to rescue Colin and Shepard in the tutorial area. On day 2, you need to rescue Russ, and unfortunately, can't do much else, because you have to wait until day 3 for Ochi to grow up and be able to use his jump ability. On day 3, you can use that jump ability to rescue Dingo, get the blue onion, and your first leafling. Day 4, you rescue another leafling from the Blossoming Arcadia. Day 5, you rescue your third leafling and Yanni from the Serene Shores. Then you do 3 days worth of night missions to cure all 3 leaflings, which you have to do because Bernard is always the third leafling cured. Then finally, on day 9, we rescue Olimar from the safe. There's really no way to skip any of these days because each day has something important that we need to beat the game. The only way I could see this being lowered was if we found some way to rescue Dingo, get the blue onion, and our first leafling without using Ochi's jump. Which I suppose is technically possible, but I have no idea how you would do it. So the minimum number of days is 9, with the possibility of it being lowered to 8 if new tricks are found. Pikmin 1 I completed in 8 days, but the lowest number of days needed to beat the game is actually 6. You need 1 day to complete the tutorial, a second to collect every part in the Forest of Hope, a third to collect every part in the Forest Nabel. Yes, it's possible doing both these levels in a single day. I'm just bad. A fourth to collect the positron generator in the impact site, a fifth to collect every part in the distant spring, and finally a sixth to collect the secret safe in the final trial. This is actually the route for the any percent run of Pikmin 1, so it's 100% possible. Again, I'm just bad. And unfortunately, there's not really any way you could lower the amount of days for this. You could possibly collect both the positron generator and engine on day 1, but the problem is, as Sample showed in his Beating Pikmin Without Making Pikmin video, as soon as you collect your first part, the game will automatically end day 1. So even if you collected the positron generator first, you would have to come back and use the second day to collect the engine. So there's no real way we could lower this number any lower than 6. Pikmin 2 I completed in 5 days, but the lowest amount of days needed to beat the game is actually only 1. I was right earlier about not being able to farm the Emergence Cave on day 2, but what I forgot is that if you perform the cutscene storage glitch, you have unlimited time on day 1. So all you would have to do is do the storage trick, then go into the emergence cave, get purple Pikmin, break down this wall and crush the bag, which would give you a clear path to the emergence cave, so you wouldn't have to do the ball board trick again. And now you can just farm the emergence cave for enemy bodies until you pay off the 10,000 Poco debt. So you would just never run out of time. Even though farming the caves for 10,000 Pocos would take forever, it just wouldn't matter because you have unlimited time. So the Pikmin game you can finish in the fewest amount of days is Pikmin 2 with 1 day. Then Pikmin 1 with 6, Pikmin 3 with 7, and Pikmin 4 with 9. Which kind of insanely adds up to only 23 days in total. 23 days to beat every Pikmin game. Crazy. That's less than the amount of days the first game gives you to beat it. Just let that sink in. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this one. For me, it was definitely interesting seeing which game could be beaten in the fewest amount of days possible. And if there's interest, I would definitely love doing this for 100%ing each game as well. Thanks for watching, and take care. This video was made possible by our amazing patrons: Logan Buchanan, Metin Coker, Alexander Thompson, Nolan Filter, Marcus Vandergaard, Real Backfish, Rebecca Lawns, Phoenix Lazuli, Dragoon, Dr. Nook, Rooney 4, Leburb, Puddles Megan, General Josher, Omo, Fossil, Koi 13, Darman, Ryan Levin, and Anarchist Kale. Thank you so much for supporting Press A and everything we do.